Hello, I'm so glad you have found your way here tonight. Before we begin our journey, I want you to take a moment to truly settle in. Adjust your blankets, find the perfect spot for your head on the pillow, and allow your body to become heavy and still. There is no rush. There is nowhere else you need to be. Tonight, we are embarking on a quiet journey through the Japanese archipelago, a land where the ancient rhythms of nature and the precision of modern science exist in a unique and beautiful harmony. Japan is a place of profound balance. It is a world where the fastest trains on Earth glide silently past wooden temples that have stood for centuries, and where the most advanced robotics are often inspired by the simple movements of a falling leaf. As we explore the science of this landscape, we will discover how the earth, the sea, and the sky have shaped a culture of deep observation and quiet resilience. If you find that this journey helps you drift toward a restful sleep, I invite you to gently subscribe or leave a like. It is a small gesture that helps these peaceful stories better reach those who need them most, and it ensures we can continue this quiet exploration together. Our pace tonight will be unhurried. We will move with the rhythm of a slow, deep breath. We will look at the stars, the deep sea currents, and the hidden mechanics of the earth, all while maintaining a sense of calm and safety. For now, let the sounds of your surroundings fade into the background. Let the tension melt away from your forehead, your eyes, and your shoulders. Imagine the air around you becoming cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain and pine. We are leaving the familiar space of your room behind, drifting across the vast, dark expanse of the Pacific Ocean. As we approach the horizon, a soft silver light begins to catch the crests of the waves. Below us, a chain of islands emerges from the deep, draped in a delicate, ethereal mist. We find ourselves standing on a high, quiet ridge in the heart of the Japanese mountains. The air here is still, and the only sound is the distant, rhythmic drip of water from a mossy branch. The mist moves slowly through the valleys, wrapping around the jagged peaks like a soft blanket. It is here, in this high, misty world, that we begin to understand the powerful forces that created this place. Forces that have been moving slowly, patiently for millions of years. As the mist thins, we can see the grand design of this land stretching out beneath us, a delicate chain of green and gray rising from the deep blue of the Pacific. To look at a map of Japan is to see a graceful arc, a crescent moon of land that seems to float on the edge of the continent. But Japan is far more complex than it first appears. It is not just a single landmass, but a vast, sprawling archipelago. While we often think of the main islands, recent geographical surveys have revealed that there are actually over 14,000 islands that make up this nation. Most are tiny, uninhabited specks of rock and forest, cradled by the waves, but they all share the same extraordinary origin story. The vast majority of this land is defined by four primary islands. Hokkaido in the north, where the winters are long and white. Honshu, the largest and most populous heart of the country, and the southern reaches of Shikoku and Kyushu. Together, they form a rugged spine of mountains that covers nearly 70% of the land. This mountainous terrain is the direct result of an incredible geological story, one that is still being written deep beneath our feet. To understand how these islands rose from the dark ocean floor, we must look far below the surface, into the very foundation of the earth. Japan sits at a unique and rare crossroads. It is the meeting point of four major tectonic plates: the Pacific, the Philippine, the Eurasian, and the North American plates. Beneath the calm surface of the sea, these massive sections of the Earth's crust are engaged in a slow, patient dance. They press against one another with unimaginable force, moving only as fast as your fingernails grow, just a few centimeters every year. In a process known as subduction, the heavier oceanic plates slide slowly beneath the lighter continental plates. As they descend into the warmth of the Earth's mantle, they create the pressure and heat necessary to push the land upward, folding the crust into the steep, dramatic ridges that define the Japanese landscape. It is a process of constant, quiet creation. Take a slow, deep breath now. As you inhale and exhale, try to imagine the immense millennial time scale of the Earth. While our lives move quickly, the ground beneath us moves with a deep rhythmic patience. The mountains we see were not built in a day, but through millions of years of this steady tectonic pressure. It is a reminder that even the most solid things are in a state of gentle, constant change. Feel the stability of the ground beneath you as you rest, knowing that the earth is supporting you with that same ancient strength. From this broad perspective of shifting plates and rising islands, our attention begins to narrow. We look across the clouds to a place where this geological power has manifested in its most beautiful and singular form. Rising out of the morning haze is a silhouette so perfect and so still that it seems to hold the entire horizon in balance. We turn our gaze now toward the most iconic peak in the archipelago, silent guardian that has watched over the land for eons. As the morning mist begins to pull back its translucent veil, a single, magnificent shape emerges against the soft, pale blue of the horizon. It is a silhouette recognized the world over, a form so balanced and serene that it feels almost intentional, like a piece of art carefully placed upon the landscape. This is Mount Fuji, or Fujisan, the highest peak in Japan and a symbol of enduring peace. Standing at over 3,700 meters, Fuji is what geologists call a stratovolcano. The word strata simply means layers, and if we were to look inside the mountain, we would see a beautiful record of time itself. For over 100,000 years, this mountain has built itself, layer by layer, through a series of volcanic events. Unlike some volcanoes that are jagged or irregular, Fuji is famous for its near-perfect symmetry. This grace is the result of the specific type of lava that once flowed from its heart, a dark fluid substance known as basaltic lava. Because this lava was relatively thin and moved with a gentle persistence, it was able to travel long distances down the mountainside before cooling and hardening. Over thousands of centuries, these overlapping flows of lava, interspersed with blankets of volcanic ash, created the long, elegant slopes that sweep upward toward the sky. It is a slow-motion masterpiece of physics and gravity, a mountain that grew into its own perfection through a patient accumulation of the Earth's inner material. Take a moment to imagine standing at the base of those long, sweeping slopes. The air is cool and crisp. The mountain feels incredibly solid, rooted deep into the crust we spoke of earlier. Even though Fuji is technically classified as an active volcano, it has been in a state of quiet slumber for over 300 years since its last major eruption in the early 18th century. Today, it stands as a silent, snow-capped guardian, its white peak catching the first light of the sun, while the valleys below are still draped in shadow. There is a profound sense of stillness here. The wind whispers softly against the ancient stone, and the snow remains undisturbed on the high ridges. It is a place of deep geological rest, but as we look at this towering monument of ice and rock, we are reminded that the Earth's story is not only told in the heights of the mountains. The same volcanic power that raised Fuji into the clouds also exists deep within the ground, manifesting in ways that are not cold and distant, but warm and inviting. As we descend from the frozen, silent heights of the peak, we follow the invisible lines of heat that travel downward through the layers of basalt and ash, deep into the hidden veins of the earth. Here, away from the mountain winds, the energy of the archipelago takes on a different, more soothing form. We move now from the majestic cold of the summit toward the gentle rising steam of the valleys below, where the hidden fire of the earth meets the clarity of the water. As we descend from the snowy peak of Mount Fuji, we follow the heat as it travels downward deep into the hidden veins of the earth. Here, the energy of the archipelago takes on a different, more soothing form. We arrive in a quiet valley where the air is thick with a gentle white mist. This is the world of the onsen, the natural hot springs that have defined the Japanese landscape and culture for thousands of years. In a land defined by volcanic activity, the earth is never truly still, and its internal fire is never far away. Because Japan is situated at the meeting point of those four massive tectonic plates we discussed, there are pockets of molten rock or magma relatively close to the surface. This geological reality has gifted the islands with an incredible abundance of geothermal energy. There are over 3,000 hot spring resorts scattered across the country, from the snowy northern reaches of Hokkaido to the tropical tips of the southern islands. The science behind these springs is a beautiful, slow cycle of nature. It begins with the rain and the snow falling on the high mountain ridges. This water does not simply run off into the rivers. Much of it seeps deep into the ground, filtering through layers of porous volcanic rock. As it descends kilometers into the crust, it eventually encounters the intense heat radiating from the magma chambers below. The water is heated far beyond its normal boiling point, but the immense pressure of the earth keeps it in liquid form. As this superheated water begins to rise back toward the surface, it dissolves the minerals found in the surrounding rocks, carrying them upward. This is why every hot spring in Japan has its own unique chemical fingerprint. Some are rich in sulfur, which carries a faint earthy scent and is known for its ability to soften and heal the skin. Others are high in sodium chloride, simple salt, which increases the water's density and helps the body retain heat. Imagine yourself now stepping slowly into the clear, steaming water of a natural stone pool. As you lower your body into the warmth, you feel the physical sensation of buoyancy. Because of the mineral content and the heat, the water supports you more fully than a regular bath would. You feel the weight of the day, the weight of your own limbs, simply drift away. The heat begins to penetrate deep into your muscles, encouraging them to let go of any lingering tension. In these mineral-rich waters, the chemistry works silently on the body. The sodium chloride creates a thin, invisible film on the skin, which helps to prevent the evaporation of sweat, keeping the body's core temperature elevated and warm long after you have stepped out of the pool. It is a gentle, biological lingering of the Earth's heat. You might also find springs rich in iron, which turn the water a deep, rusty red, or those filled with alkaline minerals that make the water feel silky and smooth against your fingertips. As you rest here, the sound of a nearby stream provides a soft, natural soundtrack to the rising steam. The water is a bridge between the fiery interior of the world and the cool, quiet air of the night. This balance between the intense power of the earth and the delicate peace of the human spirit is a theme that runs through every aspect of life on these islands. The steam rises in slow, rhythmic curls, disappearing into the cool air above. There is a profound sense of peace in knowing that this warmth comes directly from the heart of the planet. It is a reminder that the same forces that can move mountains can also provide a space for deep, restorative rest. For centuries, the people of Japan have lived in this close, intimate relationship with the shifting energy of the earth. They have learned not just to admire the landscape, but to work in harmony with its power. This deep understanding of the environment has influenced everything they create, from the way they find relaxation in the heat of the ground, to the very way they construct their homes and temples, to stand firm against the earth's movements. As we leave the warmth of the spring behind, we look toward the ancient structures that have stood for 1,000 years, designed with a scientific wisdom that allows them to dance with the earth rather than fight against it. In this land, where the earth is ever shifting, humans have learned to build not with rigid force, but with a flexible, quiet grace. As you move away from the steaming springs and look toward the silhouette of an ancient temple, you might notice the tall, elegant form of a 5-story pagoda rising against the twilight sky. These structures are some of the oldest wooden buildings in the world, and remarkably, they almost never fall. Even when the ground beneath them trembles with the immense power of the tectonic plates, these wooden towers remain standing, swaying gently like a blade of grass in the wind. The secret to this resilience lies deep within the heart of the structure, in a piece of engineering brilliance known as the Shinbashira. This is a massive central pillar, often carved from a single ancient cypress tree, that runs through the middle of the pagoda from the foundation to the very tip of the spire. But here is the fascinating science. In many traditional designs, the Shinbashira does not actually support any of the building's weight. It is not even strictly attached to the floors surrounding it. Instead, it acts as a giant internal shock absorber. When an earthquake begins, the different levels of the pagoda, each built as an independent layer, begin to slide and sway in opposite directions. This is a rhythmic movement sometimes called the snake dance. As the floors move, they encounter the Shinbashira. Because the pillar has a different mass and a different vibration frequency than the rest of the building, it creates a subtle friction. This friction absorbs the kinetic energy of the earthquake, dampening the vibrations and keeping the entire structure from swaying too far. It is a masterpiece of kinetic physics, designed long before modern computers could calculate the stresses of a tremor. This ancient wisdom is so effective that it continues to protect the people of Japan today. When engineers designed the Tokyo Sky Tree, one of the tallest structures in the world, they looked back 1,000 years for inspiration. They incorporated a modern version of the Shinbashira using a massive concrete core and high-tech oil dampers to ensure that even a giant of steel and glass can remain calm and steady when the earth moves. There is a deep, comforting sense of security in this knowledge. You can rest easy, knowing that human ingenuity has found a way to work with the forces of nature rather than fighting against them. The buildings do not resist the movement, they embrace it, absorbing the energy and releasing it harmlessly into the air. Feel the stability of the ground beneath you now, and the strength of the structures that stand watch over the islands. They are silent guardians, built on a foundation of balance and harmony. As we leave the sturdy wooden heights of the temples and the bustling stability of the cities, we begin to hear a new sound, a low rhythmic pulse that has defined the edges of this archipelago since time began. The land is firm and well engineered, but it is also an island nation, cradled by the immense and constant movement of the Pacific. We turn our attention now away from the solid earth and toward the deep blue currents that flow just beyond the shore, carrying the warmth of distant tropics to the cool northern coasts. As we stand on the jagged volcanic cliffs of the coast, the air feels different, saltier, and perhaps a little warmer than you might expect for this latitude. Below us, the Pacific Ocean stretches toward an infinite horizon, its surface an undulating sheet of deep midnight blue. This is the home of the Kuroshio, the Black Stream. It is one of the most powerful forces of nature on our planet, a massive river of salt water flowing within the ocean itself, invisible to the untrained eye, but felt in every breeze that touches the shore. The name Kuroshio comes from the striking dark cobalt color of its waters. To the eye, it appears almost black because it is exceptionally clear and low in organic particles, allowing sunlight to penetrate deep into the abyss before being absorbed. While it may seem empty of the murky greens we often associate with nutrient-rich coastal water, the Kuroshio is teeming with energy. It is the Pacific's equivalent of the Gulf Stream in the Atlantic, moving at a pace of nearly 9 kilometers per hour in some sections and transporting staggering volumes of water, up to 50 million cubic meters every single second. Imagine this vast, warm current as a liquid heartbeat for the Japanese islands. It originates in the tropical waters near the Philippines, soaking up the heat of the equatorial sun, and then carries that warmth northward along the eastern edge of the archipelago. This heat transfer is the reason why the coastal regions of Japan enjoy much milder winters than other parts of the world at the same latitude. The current acts like a giant natural radiator, releasing its stored solar energy into the atmosphere, wrapping the land in a soft, temperate blanket of air even when the northern winds begin to blow. But the Kuroshio does more than just regulate the temperature. It is a highway for life. As it flows, it carries with it a diverse cast of marine travelers, brightly colored tropical fish, graceful sea turtles, and shimmering schools of skipjack tuna. Where the warm Kuroshio meets the cold, nutrient-rich Oyashio current coming down from the Arctic, a miraculous transformation occurs. The mixing of these two worlds creates one of the most productive marine environments on Earth. The cold water brings the minerals and nutrients from the deep, and the warm water brings the energy, fueling an explosion of plankton that supports everything from tiny silver sardines to the great whales that migrate through these deep blue channels. Listen to the sound of the Pacific as it meets the shore. It is a slow, rhythmic pulse, the breath of the planet. Each wave that washes against the sand or smooths the stones of a pebble beach carries a tiny fragment of that tropical warmth, a reminder of the vast, interconnected systems that sustain our world. The water rises and falls, a steady, hypnotic motion that has continued for millions of years, indifferent to the passage of time. It is a sound that invites you to let go of the day, to match your breathing to the slow rise and fall of the tide. As the Kuroshio continues its journey, it doesn't just influence the life beneath the waves, it shapes the very air that moves across the land. The interaction between these warm ocean currents and the atmospheric pressures above creates a delicate, predictable balance. This constant exchange of energy and moisture is the engine behind the beautiful cycles of the Japanese climate. It is this balance that gives peace to the dramatic and poetic shifts in the landscape, as the warmth of the sea meets the changing temperatures of the air. The ocean's breath prepares the ground, waiting for the sky to signal the next great chapter in the story of the year. As the ocean's breath moves inland, it carries with it the first whispers of a transformation that defines life on these islands. In Japan, the passage of time is marked by a deep, almost reverent awareness of the four seasons, a concept known as kisetsu. This isn't merely a change in the date on a calendar, it is a profound scientific and cultural rhythm that dictates the behavior of plants, animals, and people alike. Because of Japan's unique position on the edge of the vast Asian continent and the world's largest ocean, the transition between these periods is exceptionally distinct, creating a landscape that seems to reinvent itself every few months. This dramatic seasonal shift is driven by a grand atmospheric tug-of-war between two massive systems. During the long winter months, a powerful high-pressure system forms over the frozen high-altitude plains of Siberia. This Siberian high pushes cold, dry air toward the archipelago. As this air crosses the Sea of Japan, it picks up moisture from the relatively warm water. When that moist air hits the central mountain ranges, the backbone of Japan, it is forced upward, where it cools and releases incredible amounts of snow. This is why the western side of the islands experiences some of the heaviest snowfalls on the planet, creating a silent, white world that sleeps under a thick blanket of frost. Then, as the Earth tilts further toward the sun, the Pacific High begins to exert its influence. This system brings warm, moist air from the tropical south, ushering in the humid heat of summer and the life-giving rains of the monsoon. The geography of the mountains acts as a divider, creating diverse microclimates that allow for a vast array of life to thrive in relatively small areas. Scientists and observers in Japan have historically identified not just 24 seasons, but 72 micro-seasons, each lasting only about 5 days. These tiny windows of time capture the subtle nuances of nature, the moment the first peach blossoms crack open, or the first time the frogs begin to sing in the rice paddies. It is a way of living in perfect sync with the minute-by-minute changes of the earth. As you listen to these words, imagine the air around you beginning to change. The sharp, biting chill of the winter wind is starting to fade, replaced by a breeze that feels like a soft silk ribbon against your skin. The frozen ground is beginning to yield. Take a slow, deep breath, and as you exhale, allow your shoulders to drop. Adjust your pillow if you need to, finding that perfect spot where your neck and head feel completely supported and heavy. We are leaving the frozen silence of the high mountains behind and moving toward the softness of a world in bloom. The transition into spring is a delicate process, a series of complex biological triggers that tell the natural world it is safe to emerge. The soil begins to warm, and deep within the roots of the trees, sap begins to flow once more, carrying nutrients upward to the dormant branches. There is a sense of quiet, focused preparation in the air. While the northern peaks may still hold on to their caps of snow, the valleys are beginning to glow with a new golden light. This is the season of renewal, and soon the entire nation will be united by a single, breathtaking phenomenon. A wave of pink and white that moves across the islands like a gentle, floral tide. This tide is the arrival of the sakura, the cherry blossoms that have become a symbol of Japan's ephemeral beauty. But beneath the delicate, pale petals lies a fascinating biological clock, a precision of nature that ensures every tree in a grove wakes up at almost the exact same moment. You might wonder how a tree standing still in the winter chill knows when it is safe to open its blossoms to the world. It is a process known as endodormancy. During the autumn, as the days grow shorter, the cherry tree enters a deep sleep. It produces growth-inhibiting hormones that act like a biological lock, keeping the buds tightly sealed against the coming frost. To break this lock, the tree requires something counterintuitive. It needs to be cold. This is what scientists call the chilling requirement. Each variety of sakura has a specific number of hours it must spend in temperatures between 0 and 7 degrees Celsius. If the winter is too mild, the trees may bloom late or unevenly. The cold is not just a season to be endured, it is a necessary signal. The tree is essentially counting the hours of winter, waiting for the quota to be met. Once that internal countdown reaches 0, the tree enters a state of eco-dormancy. The lock is gone, and now the tree is simply waiting for the first consistent warmth of spring to trigger the final surge of energy. Because many of the cherry trees in Japan, particularly the popular Someyoshino variety, are genetic clones of one another, they all share the exact same chilling requirement. When the sun finally warms the soil and the air reaches that perfect threshold, they respond as one. This creates the stunning visual of entire hillsides turning from brown to soft pink almost simultaneously. Imagine yourself walking beneath these branches. The air is stiller, and the light is filtered through thousands of tiny, translucent petals. There is no rush here. The trees have waited all winter for this moment, and now they are exhaling in a silent, floral chorus. But the beauty of the sakura is found as much in its departure as in its arrival. After only a week or two of peak bloom, the petals begin to loosen. A gentle breeze is all it takes to release them. This is the sakura fubuki, or the cherry blossom blizzard. As you lie there, imagine these petals drifting down around you. They do not fall like heavy rain. They float, caught in the invisible currents of the air, tumbling slowly in a rhythmic, weightless dance. They carpet the ground and the surface of slow-moving streams, turning the world into a soft, textured landscape of white and blush. It is a reminder of the cycle of life, a brief, brilliant moment of expression followed by a peaceful return to the earth. As the last of the petals settle and begin to fade, the trees do not return to sleep. Instead, they begin their next great task. The soft pink is gradually replaced by a vibrant, energetic green as the leaves unfurl to drink in the strengthening sun. This transition marks the end of the delicate spring and the beginning of the lush, deep vitality of the Japanese summer. The air grows thicker, scented with the smell of damp earth and growing things. We leave the open parks and the floating petals behind, moving deeper into the shadows of the ancient groves, where the trees stand tall and the air is heavy with the quiet strength of the forest. As the vibrant green of the new leaves deepens, we find ourselves stepping away from the open parks and into the cool, shaded embrace of the ancient Japanese woodlands. Here, the air changes. It becomes heavier, cooler, and carries a scent that feels both ancient and refreshing. This is the world of shinrin-yoku, a term coined in the 1980s that translates beautifully as forest bathing. It is a simple practice, yet one rooted in a profound understanding of our biological connection to the natural world. Forest bathing is not about exercise or reaching a summit or counting your steps. It is the act of simply being in the presence of trees, of letting the forest enter your body through your ears, your eyes, your nose, and your skin. As you imagine yourself walking along a soft, moss-covered path, take a slow, deep breath. The restorative power you feel in this quiet space is more than just a feeling. It is a measurable biological response. The trees around you, the towering Japanese cedars known as sugi and the fragrant hinoki cypresses, are constantly communicating with their environment. They emit natural antimicrobial organic compounds called phytoncides. These are the essential oils of the wood, a part of the tree's own immune system used to protect itself from harmful insects and rot. When we walk through these woods and breathe in the air, we are taking those phytoncides into our own systems. Scientific studies conducted in these very forests have shown that exposure to these compounds significantly lowers our levels of cortisol, the hormone associated with stress. It shifts our bodies out of a state of high alert and into a state of rest and digest, slowing the heart rate and lowering blood pressure. Even more remarkably, breathing in the forest air has been shown to increase the activity of our own natural killer cells, the parts of our immune system that help fight off infection and keep us healthy. The forest, in a very literal sense, is medicine. Visualize the light here. It is soft and dappled, filtered through layers of needles and broad leaves. This filtered sunlight is known in Japan as komorebi, the light that shines through the trees. It dances across the forest floor, illuminating the deep velvety greens of the moss and the dark, rich brown of the damp earth. The scent is unmistakable, the sharp, clean aroma of cedar mixed with the sweet, musky smell of rain-soaked soil. It is a fragrance that grounds you, making you feel steady and secure. The silence of the forest is not a void. It is a tapestry of small, gentle sounds. The distant trickle of a hidden stream, the soft rustle of a breeze moving through the high canopy, and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. It is a place of deep, enduring peace. But as we stand still in this emerald twilight, we realize we are not alone. The forest is a sanctuary for many. And if we remain quiet enough, we can begin to see the creatures that call this lush, vertical world their home. From the mossy floor to the high, misty crags, life moves with a deliberate, quiet grace. Among the most resilient of these inhabitants is a creature that has learned to thrive where the green of the forest meets the white of the winter, the snow. As we move deeper into the higher altitudes of the Japanese mountains, where the snow begins to pile high against the sturdy trunks of the cedar trees, we encounter a truly remarkable inhabitant, the Japanese macaque. Often referred to as the snow monkey, these clever and social creatures are a testament to the incredible resilience of life. In the grand hierarchy of the natural world, they hold a unique distinction. They are the northernmost living, non-human primates on our planet. While we often associate monkeys with the humid warmth of tropical jungles, the macaque has evolved to thrive in environments where the winter air is biting and the ground is covered in a thick white blanket for many months of the year. Their ability to endure the sub-zero temperatures of the Japanese Alps is a marvel of biological adaptation. They possess thick, layered coats of fur that act as a natural insulator, trapping a pocket of warm air against their skin to ward off the chill. But perhaps even more fascinating than their physical traits is their social behavior. In certain regions, particularly in the valleys where geothermal activity brings the Earth's inner heat to the surface, these monkeys have discovered a unique way to stay warm. They have learned to bathe in the natural hot springs or onsens that dot the volcanic landscape. Picture a quiet, snowy morning in a secluded valley. The world is hushed, the only sound, the soft thud of snow falling from a heavy pine branch. Amidst the frozen rocks, a pool of geothermally heated water rests, sending up lazy, swirling plumes of white steam into the cold air. Inside the pool, the macaques sit shoulder to shoulder, their fur damp and their faces a soft, healthy red from the warmth of the water. They look the very picture of serenity. Some close their eyes, drifting into a light nap as the mineral-rich water soothes their limbs. Others gently groom one another, a social ritual that strengthens the bonds of the troop while sharing the communal heat. The steam rises in slow, rhythmic pulses, blurring the sharp edges of the surrounding cliffs and creating a dreamlike, ethereal atmosphere. You can imagine the sensation of that warmth, a stark, comforting contrast to the frost-covered world just inches away. It is a scene of perfect balance, where the harshness of the winter is met with the nurturing heat of the earth. As these quiet guardians of the mountains rest in their steaming sanctuary, we find ourselves feeling a similar sense of ease, a quiet recognition of the need for warmth and rest. But the mountains are only one part of this vast archipelago. As we leave the snowy peaks and the steaming pools behind, our journey takes us toward the gentler slopes and ancient parks of the lowlands. Here, the wild world and the human world have walked hand in hand for centuries. In the quiet clearings of the old capital, we encounter another creature that has become a symbol of peace and grace, moving through the trees with a soft, rhythmic step that has remained unchanged for 1,000 years. As we descend from the misty highlands and the steaming pools of the mountains, the air grows softer and more humid, carrying the scent of ancient cedar and damp earth. We find ourselves in the historic city of Nara, where the boundary between the wild and the civilized seems to blur into a single peaceful landscape. Here, beneath the sprawling emerald canopy of Nara Park, live the Sika deer, over 1,000 of them, roaming freely among the moss-covered stone lanterns and weathered wooden temples. These are not captive animals. They are wild, yet they have lived in harmony with the human world for more than a millennium. In the quiet of the park, you can hear the rhythmic crunch of their hooves on the gravel paths and the gentle rustle of leaves as they move through the underbrush. Science tells us that the behavior of these deer is a remarkable example of long-term positive reinforcement. Because they have been protected for centuries, they lack the deep-seated instinctive fear of humans found in most wild species. Instead, they have developed a unique social structure based on trust and observation. They have learned to navigate the urban environment with a calm, steady grace, often waiting patiently at crosswalks or resting in the shade of a temple gate. This peaceful coexistence is maintained through a process known as operant conditioning. The deer associate human presence with a reward, the Shinkansen, or deer crackers, provided by visitors. Over generations, this has shaped their temperament, making them some of the most approachable wild animals on Earth. Beyond their gentle presence, these deer play a vital biological role as forest gardeners. As they graze on the grasses and low-hanging foliage, they naturally prune the landscape, maintaining the park's iconic open appearance. This constant light grazing prevents the undergrowth from becoming too dense, which allows sunlight to reach the forest floor and helps specific species of trees and moss to flourish. It is a delicate biological equilibrium that has remained stable for hundreds of years, a testament to the balance that can exist when nature is allowed to thrive alongside human history. As you stand in a quiet grove, take a slow, deep breath, imagining the cool, clean air of the park filling your lungs. You might notice one of the older deer approaching with a slow, deliberate gait. It stops a few feet away and catches your eye. Then, in a movement found nowhere else in the animal kingdom, it slowly and gracefully lowers its head in a bow. This is a learned social interaction, a rhythmic, repetitive motion that the deer use to communicate. It is a hypnotic sight. A dozen deer in a clearing, all bowing in a silent, synchronized harmony. This gentle exchange, passed down from mother to fawn, creates a sense of profound stillness, a mutual respect between two different worlds. We watch as a young fawn settles down in a patch of clover, its ears twitching at the distant, low hum of a temple bell. The world here feels grounded and secure, wrapped in the safety of a tradition that spans centuries. But as the sun begins to dip lower, casting long golden shadows across the mossy ground, our gaze is drawn upward, away from the soft grass and toward the vast, open horizons of the north. Beyond the quiet parks of the city, in the wide, frozen wetlands where the water meets the sky, another graceful inhabitant of the archipelago prepares for its own evening ritual, a creature of the air, defined by its elegance and the haunting beauty of its song. Leaving the gentle deer of the south behind, our journey takes us toward the northern island of Hokkaido, where the landscape opens into vast, silent marshes draped in a veil of winter mist. Here, in the crisp, cold air of the Kushiro wetlands, we find a creature that has become a living symbol of the Japanese spirit, the red-crowned crane, or tancho. Standing over 5 feet tall, these birds are a study in high-contrast beauty. Their bodies are covered in feathers of the purest white, which provide excellent camouflage against the snow-covered plains. When they fold their wings, a cluster of deep black feathers rests against their tail, creating a striking silhouette that has been captured in Japanese art for over 1,000 years. But it is the small patch of bare, vivid red skin on the very top of their heads that gives them their name, a crown that glows like a soft coal in the winter sun. In the quiet of the evening, you might see a pair of cranes standing together amidst the frozen reeds. These birds are famous for their fidelity, often remaining with the same partner for their entire lives, which can span over 30 years in the wild. In cultural tradition, they are said to live for a millennium, representing a wish for long life and happy marriages. This lifelong bond is not merely a matter of habit. It is a relationship constantly renewed through a series of elaborate, rhythmic rituals known as the crane dance. From a scientific perspective, this dancing is a marvel of avian communication and ethology. It begins with a slow, deliberate bow, one bird mirroring the other. Suddenly they leap into the air, their massive wings spanning nearly 8 feet, beating slowly against the cold air. They toss sprigs of dried grass or bits of snow into the sky, watching them fall like confetti. To an observer, it looks like an expression of pure joy, but it serves a vital biological function. These movements synchronize the bird's hormonal cycles and strengthen the social glue that keeps the pair together through the harsh northern winters. As they dance, they perform what is known as a unison call. The male initiates with a single long note, and the female follows with 2 shorter notes in rapid succession. This duet is so perfectly timed that it sounds like a single, complex melody echoing across the marsh. It is a territorial signal, a peaceful way of telling other cranes that this patch of the wetlands is spoken for. The sound is haunting and resonant, a musical heartbeat in the stillness of the snow. Take a moment to visualize one of these magnificent birds returning to its roost as the light begins to fade. It glides through the air with the steady, rhythmic pulse of its wings, its long neck extended forward and its legs trailing elegantly behind. As it nears the frozen ground, it flares its wings to catch the air, slowing its momentum until it is almost hovering. Then, with a lightness that seems to defy physics, its slender toes touch the surface of the ice. There is no heavy impact, only a soft, crystalline sound as it settles into place. The crane stands still for a moment, a white statue against the deepening blue of the twilight. It preens its feathers, using a specialized uropygial gland to apply a protective oil that keeps its plumage dry and insulated against the sub-zero temperatures. Eventually, it tucks its beak into the soft down of its wing, becoming a silent guardian of the marsh, its red crown the last thing visible before the night takes hold. As we watch the cranes settle into their winter slumber, we realize that the natural world has many ways of communicating through movement and light. While the crane uses the majesty of its dance to speak across the wetlands, other creatures use a much more literal form of brilliance to find their way in the dark. We leave the cold, white expanses of Hokkaido and travel toward the humid, emerald riverbanks of early summer, where the air is about to be filled with a tiny pulsing glow. The air grows noticeably warmer as we travel south from the snowy marshes of Hokkaido toward the lush, humid riverbanks of central Japan. We have arrived in the early days of summer, a time known as the rainy season, or tsuyu. The evening air is thick with the scent of damp earth, moss, and the sweet fragrance of blooming hydrangeas. As the sun dips below the horizon, the world is painted in shades of deep indigo and charcoal. We find ourselves standing on a small wooden bridge spanning a narrow, slow-moving stream. The water makes a soft, gurgling sound as it flows over smooth river stones, a rhythmic lullaby that carries away the stresses of the day. In the tall grass along the bank, a tiny emerald green light flickers into existence. Then another appears near the branches of a weeping willow, followed by dozens more until the darkness is filled with floating, glowing jewels. These are the hotaru, the Japanese fireflies. For over 1,000 years, the Japanese people have practiced hotarugari, or firefly viewing. It is a quiet, meditative tradition, much like the cherry blossom viewing of spring, but held in the velvet silence of the night. To the ancient poets, these lights were thought to be the wandering souls of those long gone, or perhaps the sparks of a quiet terrestrial fire. But the science of these tiny lanterns is just as poetic as the folklore. The glow we see is a phenomenon called bioluminescence, a process where living organisms produce light through a chemical reaction. Inside the firefly's abdomen, a specialized organ contains a compound called luciferin. When the firefly breathes, oxygen enters this organ and combines with the luciferin. To facilitate this reaction, the firefly uses an enzyme called luciferase, which acts as a catalyst, sparking the glow. What makes this process truly remarkable is its efficiency. A standard incandescent light bulb wastes about 90% of its energy as heat, but the firefly is a master of cold light. Nearly 100% of the energy produced in this chemical reaction is released as visible light. If you were to gently hold a firefly in your hand, you would feel no heat at all, only the soft, weightless pulse of a living creature. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine yourself standing in that warm summer darkness. The lights do not flash all at once. They have a rhythm, a cadence that feels deeply natural. This rhythm is actually a sophisticated form of communication. Each species of firefly has its own unique Morse code of flashes used to identify and attract a mate. In Japan, the two most famous species are the Genji botaru and the Heike botaru, named after two legendary rival clans from Japanese history. The Genji fireflies are larger and prefer the clean, moving water of streams, while the smaller Heike fireflies are often found in the still waters of rice paddies. In some parts of Japan, a rare and beautiful phenomenon occurs where thousands of fireflies begin to synchronize their flashes. They pulse in unison, a rhythmic wave of light that moves through the forest like a single glowing heartbeat. Scientists believe this synchronization helps the insects find one another more easily in dense environments. But for the observer, it creates a sense of profound peace. This gentle, irregular pulsing is often cited as an example of 1/F fluctuation, a natural rhythm found in the sound of a bubbling brook or the rustle of leaves that the human brain finds inherently relaxing. As you watch these tiny lights drift through the trees, their glow reflected in the dark surface of the water, you feel a sense of lightness. The fireflies spend most of their lives as larvae in the water or soil, and their time as glowing adults is brief, often lasting only a week or two. This brevity makes the sight even more precious, a reminder to appreciate the quiet beauty of the present moment. But the air is not the only place where these living lanterns can be found. The natural world has hidden its brilliance in many corners, and some of the most spectacular displays occur where the land meets the sea. We follow the gentle flow of the stream as it journeys toward the coast, moving away from the warm riverbanks and toward the cool, salt-scented air of the ocean. There, in the deep, dark waters of the bay, another form of bioluminescence is waiting to turn the shoreline into a mirror of the starry sky. As the river water finally mingles with the salt of the sea, we find ourselves on the shores of Toyama Bay. Here, the deep, cold waters of the Sea of Japan meet the rugged coastline, creating a unique environment for one of the most mesmerizing spectacles in the natural world. Each year, from March until June, the dark waves are transformed into a shimmering tapestry of electric blue. This is the home of the Hotaru Ik, the firefly squid. These tiny creatures, usually no longer than your finger, spend most of their lives in the crushing darkness of the deep ocean, nearly 1,000 feet below the surface. But in the spring, they rise to the shallows in their millions. When they do, they illuminate the water with a brilliant cobalt light. This light is produced by thousands of tiny, specialized organs called photophores, which are scattered across their delicate bodies like stars in a miniature galaxy. Under a microscope, these photophores are marvels of biological engineering. Some are located on the tips of their tentacles, while others are tiny dots covering their mantles and surrounding their eyes. While some of this light is used to communicate or to startle potential threats, much of it serves a more mysterious and beautiful purpose known as counter-illumination. By carefully adjusting the intensity and color of the light they emit to match the faint downward drifting light from the moon and stars above, the squid can effectively disappear. To a predator looking up from the depths, the squid becomes invisible, blending perfectly into the glowing ceiling of the sea. It is a form of camouflage made of light itself, a way to hide by shining. Imagine standing on the beach in the cool, crisp night air. The waves roll in slowly, and as they break against the sand, they leave behind a trail of glowing blue. It is as if the stars have fallen from the sky and are washing up at your feet. The light is steady and cool, reflecting off the damp sand and the gentle crests of the water. There is no sound but the rhythmic pull of the tide, a slow, deep breath taken by the ocean itself. In this moment, the boundary between the water and the sky seems to vanish. You are surrounded by a soft, luminous blue that feels both ancient and ethereal. It is a reminder of how much life thrives in the hidden places of our planet, often doing its most beautiful work in the quietest hours of the night. The blue glow of the Toyama Bay is a pulse of life, a seasonal heartbeat that has continued for millennia. As we leave the glowing shoreline and move back inland, we follow the scent of the sea breeze as it carries us toward the heart of the Japanese landscape. The water that sustains the squid in the bay is the same water that, in different forms, sustains the people of this land. We move away from the deep blue of the ocean and back toward the fertile earth, where the relationship between nature and humanity is written in the very soil. From the bounty of the sea, we return to the foundation of the Japanese table, the quiet, flooded fields where life grows in cycles as old as the mountains themselves. As we move inland from the luminous shores of Toyama, the air changes, becoming heavy with the scent of damp earth and growing things. We find ourselves standing at the edge of a flooded field where the still water reflects the pale light of the moon like a series of silver mirrors. This is the heart of the Japanese landscape, the rice paddy. For thousands of years, the rhythm of life here has been dictated by a single grain, the short grain rice known as japonica. Unlike the long, slender grains found in many other parts of the world, Japanese rice is round, plump, and pearlescent. When it is cooked, it possesses a unique quality that is often described as mochi-mochi, a texture that is simultaneously soft, slightly chewy, and gently sticky. The secret to this specific mouthfeel lies in the microscopic world of starches. Most varieties of rice contain two types of starch molecules, amylose and amylopectin. While long grain rice is typically high in amylose, which keeps the grains separate and dry, japonica rice is exceptionally rich in amylopectin. These branch starch molecules reach out and tangle with one another as they absorb heat and water, creating a soft, cohesive bond. It is this molecular embrace that allows the rice to hold its shape, making it easy to gather with chopsticks and giving it a satisfying, nourishing weight. In the rugged, mountainous regions of Japan, these fields take on a breathtaking form known as tanada, or terraced rice paddies. Because level land is scarce, farmers over many centuries have carved the steep hillsides into giant, winding steps. Each level is a self-contained ecosystem, held in place by meticulously maintained walls of stone or packed earth. The engineering of these terraces is a masterclass in natural hydrology. Water from cold mountain streams is guided into the highest terrace, where it pools and warms in the sun before gently spilling over a small notch into the level below. This gravity-fed system ensures that every plant receives exactly the right amount of hydration, while the constant slow movement of water prevents stagnation and naturally regulates the temperature of the soil. Take a moment now to imagine the sound of that water. It is a soft, melodic trickle, a liquid heartbeat echoing through the quiet valley. As you listen, feel your own breath sink with that slow, steady flow. Breathe in deeply, feeling the coolness of the night air, and exhale slowly, letting your shoulders drop. The water moves from one level to the next, carrying with it the minerals of the earth and the clarity of the high peaks. In the stillness of the evening, the paddies look like a staircase of light, each one holding a perfect, dark reflection of the stars above. There is a deep sense of peace in the patience of the rice. It grows slowly, soaking up the elements and transforming them into a grain that sustains both the body and the spirit. But the journey of the rice does not end at the harvest. Within each pearl-white grain lies a hidden potential, a storehouse of energy waiting to be unlocked by something much smaller than the human eye can see. As we move from the open, moonlit fields into the quiet, cool interiors of the traditional storehouses, we begin to see how this humble grain can be transformed into something even more complex. We are leaving the visible world of the sun and soil to enter the invisible world of microscopic change, where the raw essence of the land begins its slow, quiet process of fermentation. Within the quiet, cedar-lined walls of a traditional storehouse, we find the heart of Japanese flavor. Here lives kojikin, a microscopic organism so vital to the culture that it has been officially named the national mold of Japan. To scientists, it is known as Aspergillus oryzae. Though it is a fungus, it carries none of the earthy weight of a forest mushroom. Instead, when it is sprinkled over warm, steamed rice, it looks like a fine dusting of white snow, delicate and pure. As the rice sits in the warmth of the koji muro, a specialized incubation room, a remarkable biological process begins. The kojikin starts to reach out with teeny, invisible threads, wrapping itself around each grain of rice. It is not consuming the rice so much as it is unlocking it. The mold secretes a variety of enzymes, which are biological catalysts designed to break things down. One of these enzymes, amylase, begins to snip the long, complex chains of rice starch into smaller, simpler sugars. This is why koji-treated rice has a subtle, natural sweetness that seems to bloom on the tongue. At the same time, other enzymes called proteases begin to work on the proteins within the grain, or within the soybeans it is often mixed with. These proteases break the proteins down into their fundamental components, amino acids. The most famous of these is glutamate. When glutamate is released, it creates the sensation we know as umami. The fifth taste, a deep, savory richness that provides a sense of fullness and satisfaction. This is the science behind the comforting depth of a bowl of miso soup or the complex, salty tang of naturally brewed soy sauce. In the koji muro, the atmosphere is heavy with a scent that is both sweet and earthy, reminiscent of chestnuts or freshly turned soil after a spring rain. There is a profound stillness in this room, The microbes work in the dark at their own unhurried pace, transforming the raw materials of the earth into nourishment. It is a slow, silent alchemy that requires perfect conditions, just the right amount of humidity and a steady, gentle heat. If you were to place your hand near the trays of rice, you might feel a faint living warmth radiating from the grains as the metabolic processes take place. This invisible work is a reminder of the many layers of life that support us, often operating just beyond our perception. The fermentation of sake, miso, and soy sauce is a testament to the beauty of waiting, allowing time and nature to do what they do best. As the savory, complex notes of the fermented harvest settle into our senses, we feel a deep sense of grounding and nourishment. The heavy, rich flavors of the earth provide a sturdy foundation, but now we find our focus shifting towards something lighter, something that cleanses the palate and steadies the mind. We leave the warm, fragrant shadows of the fermentation room and move toward the gentle steam rising from a ceramic pot, where a different kind of botanical chemistry is waiting to be shared. The steam rises in a slow, elegant curl from the surface of a wide, shallow bowl. It is a quiet invitation to pause, to breathe, and to observe the chemistry of one of Japan's most cherished traditions, green tea. While all tea comes from the same plant, the resilient Camellia sinensis, the way it is treated after harvest determines its character, its color, and its effect on the human spirit. In many parts of the world, tea leaves are withered and then roasted in large pans to stop the process of oxidation. But in Japan, the tradition is different. Almost immediately after the leaves are picked, they are subjected to a brief, intense burst of steam. This steam serves a vital scientific purpose. It quickly denatures an enzyme called polyphenol oxidase, which would otherwise cause the leaves to turn brown and develop the malty, heavy flavors of black tea. By using steam, the Japanese process locks in the leaf's natural chlorophyll, preserving that vivid emerald green color that looks like a liquid forest. This flash heating also protects the delicate antioxidants known as catechins, particularly one called EGC, which has been studied for its ability to protect cells and support heart health. As the hot water meets the processed leaves, these compounds gently dissolve, creating a tea that tastes of spring rain and sweet grass. But the true magic of Japanese green tea, particularly varieties like matcha or gyokuro, lies in a unique amino acid called L-theanine. This molecule is a master of balance. When we consume caffeine, it typically acts as a stimulant, increasing our heart rate and sharpening our focus. However, L-theanine works in a beautiful, quiet synergy with that caffeine. It is one of the few compounds capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier, where it begins to stimulate the production of alpha brain waves. These are the same brain waves we experience during light meditation, or when we are on the verge of drifting into a peaceful sleep. L-theanine acts as a gentle brake, smoothing out the sharp edges of the caffeine. Instead of a sudden jolt of energy, it provides a state of calm alertness, a feeling of being fully present, yet entirely relaxed. It reduces the physiological markers of stress, lowering the heart rate and inviting the nervous system to settle. In the quiet of the evening, as you imagine the tea cooling slightly, you can almost feel that sense of internal equilibrium taking hold. It is a botanical lesson in harmony, showing us how two different substances can work together to create a state of profound peace. Now, imagine holding a small, handleless ceramic cup between your palms. The cup is warm, but not uncomfortably so. The heat from the liquid has traveled through the thick, earthy walls of the clay, reaching your skin in a steady, comforting pulse. You take a slow sip, feeling the liquid glide over your tongue, carrying with it the subtle, savory notes of the earth and the freshness of the mountain air. The warmth of the cup anchors you to the present moment, providing a tactile sense of security. As you sit with this warmth, you might begin to notice the texture of the vessel itself. It isn't perfectly smooth like a factory-made glass. It has a weight to it, a slight graininess, and perhaps a small irregularity in its shape that makes it feel unique and alive. The tea is a gift from the soil and the sun, but the vessel that holds it is a gift from the fire and the human hand. We move our focus now from the liquid within to the clay itself, and the ancient, resilient art of the Japanese potters who believe that even in breakage, there is a path toward a deeper, more enduring beauty. As you hold that ceramic cup, feeling its weight and warmth, you might notice its subtle flares, a tiny drip of glaze, a slight asymmetry, or a faint texture where the potter's thumb once rested. In the Japanese aesthetic of wabi-sabi, these are not seen as defects, but as the very soul of the object, a reflection of the transient and imperfect nature of life. This philosophy is perhaps most beautifully expressed in the art of kintsugi, or golden joinery. When a cherished tea bowl falls and shatters against a stone floor, its story does not end in the discard pile. Instead, a craftsman meticulously gathers the fragments, seeing not a ruin, but an opportunity for a second, more resilient life. At the heart of this repair is a remarkable substance called urushi. This is a natural lacquer harvested from the sap of the Japanese lacquer tree, a relative of the sumac. Chemically, urushi is a fascinating and ancient material. It is a natural polymer composed primarily of a compound called urushio. Most glues or paints we encounter in modern life dry through the evaporation of a solvent. The liquid disappears into the air, leaving the solid behind. But urushi is different. It undergoes a complex chemical reaction known as oxidative polymerization. Most interestingly, this process requires a very specific environment to occur. It needs heat and, most importantly, high humidity. While most materials might warp or weaken in damp air, urushi thrives in it. The lacquer absorbs moisture from the atmosphere, which triggers an enzyme that allows the urushiol molecules to link together into a long, incredibly strong chain. As it cures in a warm, humid cabinet, the liquid transforms into a durable, glass-like solid that is resistant to acids, alkalis, and even extreme heat. In the practice of kintsugi, the craftsman uses this potent lacquer to bind the ceramic shards back together. Once the bond is set, the seams are dusted with powdered gold, silver, or platinum. The result is a series of shimmering metallic veins that trace the history of the break. The object is no longer perfect in the traditional sense, but it is whole again. It does not hide its history of trauma. Instead, it highlights it, wearing its scars as a badge of endurance. The bowl becomes stronger at the sight of the repair than it was before it broke. There is a profound, quiet comfort in this science of resilience. It teaches us that being broken is not the same as being finished. It invites us to find beauty in the repaired, the weathered, and the enduring. You can imagine the golden lines of a tea bowl catching the soft light of a paper lantern, a testament to the idea that strength often comes from the things that hold us together. This deep understanding of how materials bond and breathe extends far beyond the small, delicate world of tea ceremonies. We see this same principle of enduring structural integrity when we move our focus from the ceramic bowl in your hands to the massive ancient timber frames of Japan's temples and shrines. Just as the lacquer binds the clay with a strength born of the environment itself, the way wood is joined to wood in Japanese architecture reveals a masterly command of the natural world, a science of connection that requires no nails or glue, only the perfect, silent alignment of the forest and the human hand. Imagine a building that stands for 1,000 years without the help of a single metal nail or a drop of modern glue. This is the art and science of kigumi. In the quiet, shaded workshops of Japan, the master carpenter does not reach for a box of steel fasteners. Instead, they reach for a chisel and a profound understanding of the wood's own heartbeat. Kigumi is the practice of interlocking joinery, a complex three-dimensional puzzle where massive beams and pillars are carved with such precision that they slot together to form a bond stronger than the wood itself. The beauty of this method isn't just in its visual elegance, it is rooted in deep biological logic. Wood, even after it has been harvested and cured, remains a dynamic material. It is hygroscopic, meaning it never truly stops interacting with the moisture in the air around it. It breathes. When the humid, heavy air of a Japanese summer rolls across the land, the wood cells absorb that moisture and slightly swell. When the dry, crisp winds of winter arrive, the wood releases its moisture and contracts. In modern construction, using rigid metal nails to hold timber together can create a conflict because metal does not breathe or expand in the same way as organic fiber. The constant movement of the wood eventually causes it to split or the nails to lose their grip over the decades. But a kigumi joint is designed to live in harmony with this movement. Because the joints are made of the same timber as the beams, they expand and contract at the exact same rate. They tighten when it is damp and relax when it is dry, maintaining a constant, flexible tension. This inherent flexibility is what allows ancient wooden pagodas to endure for centuries, even in a land of frequent tremors. During an earthquake, these interlocking joints act like tiny shock absorbers. They allow the entire structure to shift and sway, dissipating the energy of the Earth's movement through thousands of small wooden connections, rather than resisting it with brittle rigidity. The building doesn't fight the Earth, it moves with it, a silent dance of physics and forestry. There is a specific meditative satisfaction in the assembly of these pieces. Often, the wood of choice is hinoki, or Japanese cypress. It is prized for its straight grain and its clean, calming scent, fragrance that evokes the stillness of an ancient grove. As you settle deeper into your pillow, imagine the sound of a wooden mallet softly tapping a joint into place. There is a muffled rhythmic thud, and then the click. It is the sound of two pieces of nature becoming one. There are no gaps, no imperfections, just the perfect alignment of fibers and intent. It is a feeling of absolute stability, a structure held together by the very laws of the natural world. This mastery of organic materials, knowing exactly how a plant fiber behaves under pressure, how it reacts to the touch of water, and how it ages over a millennium, is a thread that runs through every layer of Japanese craft. While the heavy cypress beams provide the strong, silent skeleton of a home, the spaces between those pillars require a different kind of science. We move now from the strength of the forest's tall trunks to the delicate, resilient inner bark of its smaller trees. We shift our focus from the solid, grounding weight of the wood to the soft, translucent world of paper. As we leave the heavy scent of hinoki cypress behind, we turn our attention to something lighter, something that carries the spirit of the forest in a different form. This is the world of washi, the traditional paper of Japan. To the touch, it feels warm and slightly textured, a far cry from the cold, clinical smoothness of modern office paper. Its strength is not found in its thickness, but in the very architecture of its fibers. While most industrial paper is made from wood pulp ground into tiny short fragments, washi is crafted from the inner bark of specific shrubs, most notably the kozo, or paper mulberry. These plants possess long, resilient fibers that are painstakingly cleaned and beaten until they are supple. When the paper maker dips their bamboo screen into a vat of water and fiber, they perform a rhythmic, swaying motion. In this moment, science and art become indistinguishable. The long fibers don't just sit on top of one another, they entwine. They reach out and interlock like the fingers of two hands held tight. This interlocking structure is what gives washi its incredible longevity. Because the fibers are long and left largely intact, the paper resists tearing even when it is folded or pulled. It does not become brittle with age, nor does it yellow as easily as paper made with harsh chemicals. It is a material that breathes, much like the wooden joints we just explored. It expands and contracts with the humidity of the room, living in a quiet, constant dialogue with the air around it. Perhaps the most beautiful scientific property of washi, however, is the way it interacts with the light. In a traditional Japanese home, washi is used to create shoji, the sliding screens that serve as walls, unlike glass, which allows light to pass through in a direct, harsh beam. The irregular, overlapping fibers of washi act as a natural diffuser. When a ray of sunlight hits the screen, it doesn't just pass through. It is scattered in 1,000 different directions. This scattering creates a soft, ethereal glow that fills a room without creating sharp shadows. It is a light that feels like a warm embrace, gentle on the eyes and calming to the mind. Imagine yourself lying in a room partitioned by these screens. The world outside is a blur of soft greens and grays, and the light that reaches you has been filtered through the very essence of the mulberry tree. It is a space of perfect stillness where the boundary between inside and outside is as thin as a single sheet of paper. But Japan is a land of fascinating contrasts. While we find peace in the ancient stability of wood and the soft diffusion of paper, the same principles of precision and harmony with nature are applied to the way this nation moves. We leave the quiet, sun-drenched room of the traditional house and step toward the horizon, where the stillness of the past meets the incredible velocity of the future. From the slow, rhythmic swaying of the papermaker's tray, we transition to a different kind of movement, one that is swift, silent, and perfectly engineered to glide through the landscape. As we leave the quiet, sun-drenched room of the traditional house, we step toward the horizon, where the stillness of the past meets the incredible velocity of the future. From the slow, rhythmic swaying of the papermaker's tray, we transition to a different kind of movement, one that is swift, silent, and perfectly engineered to glide through the landscape. This is the world of the Shinkansen, the famous Japanese bullet train. To look at one of these trains is to see a masterpiece of modern physics, a sleek, white vessel designed to move through the air with as little resistance as possible. It is one of the most efficient transport systems ever devised, a network of steel and electricity that connects the far reaches of the archipelago with the precision of a clockwork mechanism. The Shinkansen is more than just a fast train. It is a testament to the idea that humans can move through the world without causing a disturbance. In the early days of high-speed rail, engineers faced a peculiar and noisy problem. Because Japan is a land of mountains and valleys, the train tracks must pass through many tunnels. When a train enters a narrow tunnel at 300 kilometers per hour, it acts like a giant piston, compressing the air in front of it. This creates a wave of high pressure that travels through the tunnel and emerges at the other end as a loud, startling tunnel boom. This sound was so powerful it could be heard for miles, disturbing the peace of the quiet mountain villages nearby. The solution to this problem came not from a computer, but from the natural world. An engineer and bird watcher named Eiji Nakatsu noticed a specific bird that could move between two different environments with almost no impact. The kingfisher is a small, vibrant bird that dives from the air into the water to catch fish. Despite the fact that water is much denser than air, the kingfisher enters the surface with barely a splash. Its long, tapered, wedge-shaped beak allows the air to flow around it smoothly, preventing a sudden change in pressure. Inspired by this, the engineers redesigned the nose of the Shinkansen to mimic the beak of the kingfisher. This long, elegant curve allows the train to slice into the air of the tunnel rather than pushing it. The result was a train that was not only 10% faster and 15% more energy efficient, but also significantly quieter. The thunderous booms were replaced by a soft, rushing whisper. Imagine yourself now, settled into a wide, comfortable seat as the Shinkansen pulls away from the station. There is no sudden jolt, no screeching of metal. Instead, there is a smooth magnetic pull as the train begins its silent glide. As you accelerate to 300 kilometers per hour, the world outside begins to transform. The terraced rice paddies, The dense cedar forests and the mist-covered mountains we have explored together become a soft, impressionistic blur. Inside the carriage, the environment remains perfectly still. You could place a coin on its edge on your tray table, and it would remain standing, undisturbed by the incredible speed at which you are traveling. The ride is a steady rhythmic hum, a gentle vibration that feels like a lullaby. It is a strange and beautiful sensation to be moving faster than a racing car, yet feeling as though you are resting in a quiet library. As the journey continues and the sun begins to dip below the horizon, the natural greens and browns of the countryside start to fade into the indigo of twilight. The train begins to slow as it approaches the edge of a great metropolis. The soft, diffused light of the washy screens we left behind is now replaced by a different kind of glow. Through the window, the first sparks of the city begin to appear. We are moving from the physics of speed and aerodynamics into a realm of pure, vibrant energy. The horizon is beginning to shimmer with 1,000 different colors, leading us toward the heart of the city, where the science of light creates a landscape unlike any other. As the Shinkansen comes to a gentle, humming halt, we step out into the heart of Tokyo. Even at this late hour, the city is bathed in a soft, electric glow. Tokyo is the world's largest metropolis, home to tens of millions of people. Yet from our vantage point, it feels less like a crowded hive and more like a vast, luminous sea. This is the city of neon, a place where the darkness of night is never truly black, but rather a deep indigo punctuated by ribbons of emerald, sapphire, and amber. If you look closely at the signs that line the narrow streets of Shinjuku or the wide avenues of Ginza, you aren't just looking at lights. You are looking at the quiet movement of atoms. The science behind these vibrant colors is a beautiful dance of chemistry and physics. Inside each glass tube is a noble gas, elements that usually prefer to be left alone, stable, and unchanging. But when we apply a high voltage current to the electrodes at either end of the tube, we invite these gases to wake up. Take a moment to imagine a single neon atom. As the electricity flows, it knocks electrons out of their comfortable orbits. When those electrons eventually settle back into place, they release energy in the form of light. Pure neon gas produces that iconic warm reddish-orange glow, a color that feels like a sunset captured in a glass straw. To create the cool blues and violets that balance the city's palette, scientists use argon gas mixed with a tiny drop of mercury. When electrified, it emits a soft, ultraviolet light that causes a phosphor coating on the inside of the tube to glow with a calming, steady radiance. Every color you see, the pale pinks, the deep forest greens, the electric yellows, is the result of a specific gas or a specific coating, each one tuned to a different frequency of light. It is a symphony of wavelengths, all vibrating together to create the visual landscape of the modern world. As you watch this sea of color in your mind's eye, try to find the rhythm within it. Even in the busiest city on earth, there is a pulse that is steady and predictable. The lights don't just exist, they breathe. They reflect off the damp pavement after a light rain, turning the streets into mirrors of liquid light. They hum with a frequency so low it's almost a feeling rather than a sound, a gentle, electronic purr that anchors the city. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the weight of your blankets as you imagine yourself standing on a quiet balcony, overlooking this glowing horizon. The city is vast, yes, but it is also ordered and peaceful in its own way. The lights are a testament to human ingenuity, a way of pushing back the shadows with the very building blocks of the universe. But as we look up, past the tops of the shimmering skyscrapers and the glowing advertisements, we realize that this artificial brilliance is only one part of the story. Beyond the reach of the neon and the argon, the sky deepens into a true velvet dark. The vibrant colors of the city begin to feel small compared to the vastness of the space above us. As we turn our gaze away from the man-made wonders of Tokyo, we find a much older, much softer light waiting for us. A light that has guided travelers and dreamers in Japan for thousands of years. We leave the buzzing energy of the metropolis behind and look toward the heavens, where a single silver orb is beginning to rise over the quiet edge of the world. As the neon hum of the city fades into a soft, distant memory, we find ourselves in a quiet, open space where the air is cool and the sky is an infinite deep indigo. Here, away from the flickering lights of man, we participate in a tradition that has anchored the Japanese spirit for over 1,000 years. Tsukimi, the art of moon viewing. In the quiet of the autumn months, when the air is at its clearest and the humidity of summer has finally drifted away, the moon reveals itself with a clarity that feels almost intimate. It is a time for Meigetsu, the bright, celebrated moon, where we pause to appreciate the steady, cyclical nature of the universe. Imagine standing on a wooden veranda, the scent of cedar and dry grass lingering in the breeze. Beside you, a small tray holds tsukimi dango, round white rice dumplings that mirror the shape of the orb above. There is no rush here. The moon does not hurry across the sky. It glides, a silent guardian of the night. As you gaze at its silver surface, you might notice the familiar patterns that have inspired countless legends. While some cultures see a face in the craters, in Japan, the shadows are said to form the silhouette of a rabbit standing over a mortar, busily pounding rice into sweet mochi. This moon rabbit is a beautiful example of pareidolia, the human brain's natural tendency to find familiar shapes in random patterns. But it is also a lesson in lunar geology. Those dark, sprawling patches we see are known as maria, the Latin word for seas. Although early astronomers once believed they were bodies of water, we now know they are vast, ancient plains of basaltic rock. Billions of years ago, when the moon was still young and geologically active, massive asteroid impacts cracked its crust, allowing molten lava to seep upward and fill the deep basins. As this lava cooled and solidified, it formed dense, dark volcanic rock that reflects less sunlight than the rugged, cratered highlands surrounding it. This difference in albedo or reflectivity is what creates the contrast we see from Earth. The rabbit is essentially a map of ancient volcanic history, a story of fire and impact frozen in time for us to contemplate from our quiet gardens. Take a slow, deep breath. Feeling the coolness of the night air fill your lungs, imagine this soft silver light spilling over the surface of a perfectly still lake, perhaps at the base of Mount Fuji. The water acts as a dark mirror, catching the moon's reflection and stretching it into a long, shimmering path of light that dances with the tiniest ripple. There is a profound sense of peace in this duality. The moon in the heavens and the moon in the water, both glowing with a borrowed light that feels both ancient and new. This connection to the moon has always been more than just aesthetic. It is a bridge between the earth and the mysteries of the cosmos. For centuries, we watched from afar, mapping the shadows and timing the tides. But as our understanding of the physics of the universe grew, so did our desire to reach out and touch the silence of space. The same curiosity that leads us to sit quietly under the autumn moon has pushed us to look beyond our own atmosphere toward the smaller, darker rocks that drift through the solar system. We are no longer just observers of the night sky, we have become travelers within it, seeking to understand the very origins of our world. Our curiosity about the moon naturally leads us further into the dark, velvety expanse of the solar system. Here, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, has embarked on some of the most daring journeys in human history. While the moon is our closest neighbor, JAXA looked even further, toward the tiny ancient rocks that drift through the silence between the planets. These are the Hayabusa missions, a name that means peregrine falcon, chosen for the way these spacecraft descend gracefully to their target, touch the surface for just a fleeting moment, and then soar back into the sky. Imagine a small, silver-winged messenger, no larger than a kitchen table, traveling millions of miles across the void. Its mission was not just to look, but to touch, to collect a few precious grains of dust from an asteroid and bring them home to Earth. These asteroids, like Ryugu or Atakawa, are like time capsules, preserved in the freezing cold of space since the very birth of our solar system. By studying them, scientists hope to find the secrets of how water and the building blocks of life first arrived on our planet. The journey of Hayabusa is a masterclass in patience and precision. Unlike the massive fiery rockets we often imagine, which burn through their fuel in a matter of minutes, these probes rely on the gentle, steady push of ion engines. Inside these engines, atoms of xenon gas are stripped of their electrons and accelerated by an electric field. The result is a soft, ethereal blue glow that provides a very faint but constant thrust. It is a quiet, rhythmic pulse of energy that can run for thousands of hours, slowly nudging the spacecraft through the vacuum. It is a technology of persistence, a slow and steady glide through the darkness that mirrors the patient spirit of the researchers back on Earth. When the mission is complete, the spacecraft must perform a final delicate feat of physics. It releases a small, reinforced capsule containing the asteroid samples. This capsule enters Earth's atmosphere at speeds far greater than any commercial jet, becoming a brilliant streak of light in the night sky. Protected by a specialized heat shield, it survives the intense friction of the air, eventually drifting down on a parachute to a soft landing. It is a remarkable journey of return, a piece of the deep cosmos coming home to rest on the soil of our world. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine that vast, silent vacuum where the Hayabusa probes once drifted. There is no wind there, no sound, only the infinite stars and the slow rotation of the planets. It is a place of absolute stillness. But while these machines travel to the furthest reaches of our neighborhood to find answers, we can experience that same connection to the universe without ever leaving the ground. As we pull our gaze back from the distant asteroids and the high-tech laboratories of JAXA, we return to the familiar comfort of the Japanese landscape. We find ourselves moving away from the city lights, climbing higher into the cool, crisp air of the central mountains, where the veil between the earth and the stars feels very thin indeed. Deep in the heart of the Japanese Alps, in the quiet prefecture of Nagano, lies a small mountain community known as Achi Village. It is a place where the night is not just a time of rest, but a window into the infinite. Achi has been recognized by the Ministry of the Environment as the place with the most beautiful starry skies in all of Japan. It is a title earned through a perfect harmony of geography and human care. And as you imagine yourself standing there, the world seems to settle into a profound, expectant hush. Imagine standing on a high ridge in Achi, far above the neon glow of the cities we visited earlier. Here, the air is cold and crisp, feeling incredibly clean and sharp as you take a slow, steady breath. The science of this clarity is fascinating in its simplicity. Because Achi is nestled deep within high-altitude valleys, the surrounding mountains act as natural barriers, blocking out the light pollution from distant metropolitan areas like Nagoya or Tokyo. In these valleys, the air is thinner and often much drier. At lower elevations, moisture and dust particles in the atmosphere act like a translucent curtain, scattering light and blurring the sharp edges of the stars. But here, that curtain is pulled back. Without that atmospheric haze, the stars do not just twinkle, they shine with a steady, piercing light. You can see the subtle colors that are usually hidden from the human eye, the cool sapphire blue of young hot stars and the warm amber glow of Jing giants. When you look up, the sky feels closer, as if the velvet blackness of the cosmos is a blanket resting just above the mountain peaks. Then there is the Milky Way. In Japan, it is often called Amanogawa, or the River of Heaven. From the vantage point of Achi, it truly looks like a river, a soft, glowing band of celestial light that stretches from one horizon to the other. It is not a single streak, but a complex tapestry of billions of stars, so distant and numerous that their light blends together into a luminous mist. This glow is the combined radiance of our own galaxy, seen from the inside. It is a reminder of our place in a vast rotating disk of light and shadow drifting through the dark. Take a moment now to settle deeper into your covers, imagining that silver river flowing silently above you. There is no sound in the mountain night, only the faint, rhythmic rustle of the wind through the pines and the profound stillness of the universe. As we watch the stars, we feel the temperature continue to drop. The crisp air of the high altitude begins to sharpen into the deep, biting cold of a true mountain winter. The moisture in the air, once invisible, begins to change its form. The high peaks of the Japanese Alps start to gather a thick white mantle, and as the seasons turn, the landscape transforms into a world of ice and gas. We are moving now from the light of the stars to the quiet, frozen wonders that wait for us in the snow-covered forests of the north, where the cold creates shapes that seem almost like magic. As the silver starlight of Aki fades into the soft, deep blue of a winter night, we travel further north toward the rugged peaks of the Zhao mountain range. Here, the landscape undergoes a transformation so complete that it feels as though we have stepped onto another planet. This is the home of the Juhyo, famously known as the snow monsters of Zhao. In the dim, ethereal light of a winter evening or under the pale glow of a high moon, the mountainside appears to be populated by thousands of giant, hunched figures. They are vast and bulbous, standing several meters tall. Their shapes twisted into strange frozen poses that seem to lean into the wind. Despite their name, these are not creatures of myth, but a beautiful collaboration between biology and the unique climate of northern Japan. These monsters are actually Mary's fir trees, a hardy species of evergreen that clings to these high, subalpine slopes. Every year, they are sculpted by the elements into these incredible, unrecognizable forms. The science behind this phenomenon is a fascinating process known as the formation of rime ice. It begins far to the west, with the bitter Siberian winds that sweep across the Sea of Japan. As these winds move over the relatively warm water of the sea, they pick up a tremendous amount of moisture, forming thick, heavy clouds. When these clouds reach the high elevations of the Zhao Mountains, the water droplets within them become supercooled. This is a state where water remains in a liquid form, even though its temperature has dropped well below the freezing point of 0 degrees Celsius. These droplets are essentially looking for a reason to turn into ice. The moment they collide with the frozen needles of a fir tree, they freeze instantly. This is not like the soft, crystalline snowflakes that drift gently from the sky. Instead, this is a hard, dense, and opaque ice that builds up layer by layer, driven by the relentless force of the wind. Over weeks and months, the ice grows outward, forming what locals call shrimp tails, long horizontal spikes of ice that point directly into the prevailing wind. As the snow falls and becomes trapped within these icy structures, the entire tree is eventually buried under a heavy, white mantle. The individual branches disappear, and the tree becomes a singular, rounded mass of white. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine standing in the heart of this frozen forest. There is a profound, heavy stillness here. The thick layers of ice and snow act as a natural acoustic insulator, swallowing every sound and leaving only the rhythmic pulse of your own breathing. In the moonlight, the snow monsters glow with a soft, crystalline luminescence, their shadows stretching long and blue across the untouched snow. It is a world of pure white, a silent army of frozen giants standing guard over the mountain. But as we admire the cold beauty of the north, we feel the air begin to change once more. The biting chill of the mountain peaks starts to soften, and the frozen landscape begins to recede. We are leaving the ice and the winter silence behind, following the warmth of the Pacific currents as they flow back toward the south. We are traveling far beyond the snowy forests, toward a chain of islands where the water is clear and turquoise, and the air is filled with the scent of salt and tropical blooms. From the white, frozen wonders of Zhao, we move toward the vibrant, sun-drenched gardens that grow beneath the surface of the southern seas. As we drift further south, the biting chill of the Japanese Alps fades into a memory, replaced by the soft, salt-laden air of the Ryukyu Islands. We find ourselves standing on the white sands of Okinawa, looking out over a sea that shifts through every shade of sapphire and emerald. Beneath these sparkling waves lies a world of incredible complexity and ancient beauty, the northernmost coral reef system in the world. It is a remarkable feat of nature that these reefs exist here at all. Usually, coral requires the intense, consistent heat of the tropics, but the Kuroshio Current, the great warm water river of the Pacific, carries life-giving warmth from the equator up along the Japanese coastline. This current acts as a thermal bridge, allowing a tropical paradise to thrive in a place where the seasons still turn. Because of this unique geography and the incredible variety of species found here, these islands are often referred to as the Galapagos of the East. If we were to look closely at the coral, past its stony exterior, we would discover a masterpiece of biological cooperation. Each coral structure is actually a colony of thousands of tiny, soft-bodied animals called polyps. These polyps have a quiet symbiotic relationship with microscopic algae known as zooxanthellae. The algae live safely within the coral's tissues, using the sunlight that filters through the clear water to perform photosynthesis. In return for this sanctuary, the algae provide the polyps with the energy and nutrients they need to secrete calcium carbonate, the hard substance that builds the reef's massive, intricate architecture. It is a silent, beautiful partnership, a tiny miracle of shared existence that has continued for millions of years. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine yourself drifting peacefully just below the surface of this warm, turquoise water. You are completely buoyant, supported by the gentle cradling of the sea. Below you, the reef stretches out like an underwater forest. You can see the delicate, lace-like structures of sea fans, swaying with the slow, rhythmic pulse of the tide. They move back and forth, following the invisible breath of the ocean. The colors are soft and muted by the water, lavenders, pale yellows, and deep oranges. There is no rush here. The reef grows at its own deliberate pace, adding only a few millimeters of height each year. In this weightless world, the concept of time feels different. We are no longer measured by the ticking of a clock, but by the slow accumulation of minerals and the steady, ancient rhythm of the waves. As we watch the sea fans sway in their eternal dance, we begin to feel the profound weight of history held within the natural world. We leave the sunlit gardens of the coral behind, carrying this sense of timelessness with us as we travel back toward the ancient, misty forests of the mountains. We are moving toward the deep green heart of the islands, where time is recorded not in stone or salt, but in the silent concentric circles of living giants. Leaving the warm currents of the south behind, we travel to the rugged, moss-covered island of Yakushima. This is a place where the clouds seem to rest permanently against the mountain peaks, and the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient wood. It is said on this island that it rains 35 days a month, a gentle exaggeration that speaks to the constant, life-giving mist that nourishes one of the oldest forests on earth. Here, the trees do not merely grow, they endure. Deep within this emerald wilderness stands the Jomon-suk, a Japanese cedar, so ancient and massive that its gnarled trunk looks like a landscape of its own. To look upon this tree is to look back through the layers of time itself. While most cedars live for a few centuries, those on Yakushima that are older than 1,000 years are given a special name. Yakusugi, the Jomon Sugi, is the patriarch of them all, with age estimates ranging from 2,000 to over 7,000 years. It has stood silently as civilizations rose and fell through countless seasons of snow and sun, rooted deeply into the granite heart of the island. The secret to this incredible longevity lies in the science of the environment. Because the soil on Yakushima is made of nutrient-poor granite, the trees grow at an incredibly slow pace. In the world of biology, slow growth often leads to a higher concentration of resin. This natural oil acts as a powerful preservative, protecting the wood from the high humidity and preventing decay. This slow, deliberate process is recorded within the tree's body through the science of dendrochronology, the study of tree rings. Imagine the trunk of a tree as a library of the Earth's history. Each year, a tree adds a new layer of growth, creating a ring. By examining these rings, scientists can read the story of the planet. A wide ring tells of a year with plentiful rain and mild temperatures, while a narrow, tight ring speaks of a year of hardship, perhaps a long drought or a particularly harsh winter. In the Yakusugi, these rings are so close together they are almost microscopic, representing a life lived with immense patience. These rings even capture the chemical signatures of distant volcanic eruptions or changes in solar activity, preserving the memory of the cosmos within the fibers of the wood. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine placing your hand against the cool, textured bark of such a tree. Feel the immense stability of a living being that has seen 10 centuries pass, and then 10 more. There is a profound peace in realizing how small our own worries are when measured against the lifespan of a cedar. The tree does not hurry. It simply exists, adding its thin, silent layer of history year after year. The forest around it is quiet, save for the soft drip of water from a mossy branch. As we stand in the presence of this ancient giant, we begin to notice more than just the physical mass of the wood and the leaves. We begin to notice the stillness that surrounds it. In the gaps between the great twisting roots and the silence between the swaying branches, there is a sense of something purposeful. We are moving away from the tangible world of bark and stone and into the intangible beauty of the space that connects them. This is the transition from the substance of life to the ma, the Japanese concept of the meaningful void, the essential interval that gives everything else its shape. In the deep moss-covered quiet of the Yakushima forest, we find ourselves contemplating not just the ancient trees, but the profound stillness that exists between them. This brings us to a beautiful and essential Japanese concept known as ma. Written with the kanji character for a gate with the sun shining through it, ma represents the void, the interval, or the meaningful pause. It is the idea that the space between things is just as important, perhaps even more important, than the things themselves. In a world that often feels crowded with noise and activity, understanding the science of this silence can be a powerful tool for rest. In Western thought, we often perceive space as nothingness, or an empty vacuum waiting to be filled. But in the Japanese worldview, ma is a structural element. In music, it is the silence between the notes that gives the melody its shape. In a traditional Japanese room, it is the uncluttered floor that allows the light from the paper screens to breathe. Without the pause, the music is just noise. Without the space, the room is just a box. This philosophy extends into the very way we experience time and sound. Science has begun to uncover why this negative space is so vital for our well-being. When we are constantly bombarded by information and noise, our brains stay in a state of high alert, processing external stimuli. However, when we enter a state of intentional silence, something remarkable happens in the brain. Research in the field of neuroscience suggests that silence doesn't mean the brain shuts down. Instead, it activates the default mode network, a series of interconnected brain regions that come alive when we are at rest and not focused on the outside world. This is the space where our brains integrate memories, process emotions, and engage in self-reflection. Furthermore, studies in acoustic ecology have shown that silence can have a more profound physiological effect than relaxing music. A study conducted at Duke University found that 2 hours of silence a day could lead to the development of new cells in the hippocampus, the region of the brain associated with memory and learning. In a way, silence acts as a nutrient for the mind. When we stop the flow of input, the brain finally has the resources to repair and reorganize itself. The ma is not a lack of activity, it is a period of internal cultivation. As you lie there now, let's practice a moment of ma together. You don't need to do anything, and you don't need to think about anything in particular. Just notice the negative space in your own environment, the quiet between my words, the soft weight of your blanket, and the rhythm of your own existence. Take a slow, gentle breath in, feeling the cool air enter your lungs, and slowly let it out, feeling the space that remains when the breath is gone. In this pause, there is no pressure to act or react. There is only the peaceful interval. The brain begins to lower the production of cortisol, the stress hormone, and the heart rate settles into a steady, rhythmic pulse. By embracing this silence, you are giving your nervous system the signal that it is safe to let go. You are clearing a space for sleep to enter, much like the sun shining through the gate in the kanji for ma. We are beginning to drift now, moving away from the specific wonders of the Japanese landscape and toward the ultimate ma, the deep restorative interval of sleep. The mountains, the seas, and the ancient forests are all still there, held in the quiet of the night, just as you are held in the quiet of this moment. We have traveled far through the science and beauty of the archipelago, and now the journey is bringing us back to the most important destination of all, the stillness of the present. As we return to the present moment, let the weight of your body sink just a little deeper into the mattress. Our long journey through the Japanese archipelago is drawing to a close, but the stillness we found there travels back with us. We have traversed the deep, hidden seams of the earth where tectonic plates meet in a slow, rhythmic dance. And we have looked up into the velvet dark of the Aki sky to see the Milky Way spilling like a river of light. Think back on the path we've taken. We felt the geothermal heat rising from the heart of the world into the mineral-rich waters of the onsen. We saw the wisdom of ancient builders who understood how to make wood breathe and move, creating structures that sway but never fall. We followed the Kuroshio current as it brought warmth to the shores, and we waited through the winter chill for the exact moment the cherry blossoms received their signal to wake. From the playful bowing of the Nara deer to the bioluminescent glow of the firefly squid in the deep blue of Toyama Bay, we have seen how life adapts, glows, and thrives in its own unique way. We have tasted the chemistry of green tea and felt the strength of mulberry fibers in a sheet of washi paper. Each of these things is a small miracle of science, a story written in the language of atoms, cells, and time. In Japan, there is a deep understanding that nothing is permanent, yet everything is connected. A leaf falling in a forest of ancient cedars is not an end, but a transition. A broken bowl repaired with gold is not ruined, but made more beautiful by its history. You, too, are part of this grand scientific tapestry. Your breath, your heartbeat, and the way your mind is now beginning to fold into the softness of dreams. It is all a natural, beautiful process. The science of sleep is now taking over. Your brain is tidying its halls, clearing away the thoughts of the day, and preparing the space for tomorrow. You have no more facts to learn, no more landscapes to envision. The mountains are sleeping under their blankets of snow. The cranes are tucked into the frozen marshes, heads resting beneath their wings. The great kingfisher nose of the Shinkansen is still in its depot, and the neon lights of the city have dimmed to a soft, rhythmic pulse. Japan is a land of harmony, and now that harmony is yours. Every stone and every star has told its story, and now it is time for your own story to rest in the quiet Ma, the peaceful interval between today and tomorrow. Take one last slow breath, feeling the air move in and out like the tide against an Okinawan reef. You are anchored. You are peaceful. You are exactly where you need to be. May your rest be as deep as the Pacific trenches and as calm as a forest of bamboo in the moonlight. You are safe. You are still. You are ready. Sleep now. Rest well. Good night.